Good morning, students. This is a brief introduction to the Snap Circuit kits. I'm going to step you through project number one as an example of how to use the Snap circuits, and I'm going to try to, as I go, incorporate some pro tips. One of the things about doing circuitry or any hands-on science experiment is that you have to know your apparatus. You have to really work with the materials that you have and be able to troubleshoot. So while this may seem simple on paper, there are definitely some things to be aware of as you learn how to actually build actual circuits. So let me get you started here. So first of all, we're going to start with a very simple circuit, the electric light and switch. And as we read through these directions here, just be aware that there is a basic sort of principle in physics to sort of be aware of here, which is that we're going to start using the words closed circuit and open circuit. And so that's something that you should read about and study. So I just want to point out here in the directions or this sort of overview of what you're actually making that there is something called the placement level. So snap circuits sort of have a base layer and then they've got a layer on top. And when that's called the placement level, and then the base layer is leveled 1, and then the on top layer is noted as 2. So for example, we will be putting the battery in the base layer, and then this blue sort of quote unquote wire in the base layer, and then the lamp socket and then the slide switch will go on level 2, which is the layer above that. So before we start, let me just point out that these numbers across the top show up on the plastic grid, and then these letters down the side also show up on the plastic grid. So what I mean by that is, if you look really carefully, it's sort of hard to see, but if you look at your grid, you see ABC down the side and then 1, 2, 3 across the top. So if I'm going to build this circuit, project number one, I just want to look through my Snap Circuits box and get the appropriate materials. So here's the correct attachment that represents this guy, because there's a 3 there, which means that there's 1, 2, 3 snaps. Let me just introduce you to this thing. So there is a wire, or what's akin to a wire, is a conductor along the back. So anything that is connected to this snap will have a conductive piece of material underneath it, and that means that it'll be part of the circuit. So I'm going to find layer C here, which is this guy, and I'm going to find C2, and I'm going to put this guy down like that. Okay, so that's it's in the base layer, or layer 1. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is grab my battery supply, and I'm going to put that in the base layer starting on C4. So I've got my batteries correctly oriented, and C4 is here. Just slide that off. Okay. Now for my placement level 2, I'm going to put my lamp socket across, and I'm going to put my slide switch across. So here's my lamp socket. Goes on placement level 2. And then here I've got my slide switch on placement level 2. And then of course I have a working circuit. Now we will be using these snap circuits both as reflections of some of the projects that are available in this workbook, but I will also be assigning circuits that are not in this workbook. So I guess it's important just to recognize that I need you to sort of be a little bit familiar with how to improvise with this circuit kit. So some places where things can get a little bit wonky involve sometimes you don't get great connections between this and that. So you kind of have to experiment a little bit. Sometimes if you're not following the directions carefully, for instance, if you tried to just kind of quickly go through and just slap the base layer down first and then, connect like this. So in theory, this could be the same kind of circuit as what's in the page, but then of course, this guy is sort of hanging out there in midair, and that's kind of a weird design. So I guess just pay really careful attention to the directions and the placement layers, and you're going to do great with these. Okay, so that's it for my introductory how-to video.